Which AR-15 style rifle has the best recoil for your playstyle? In this video, I'm presenting a bunch of data and some opinions that should help you answer that question. I tested every available lower receiver under strict identical conditions so you can see the real differences. We're breaking this down into 3 categories: mag dumpers, half mag dumpers, and short bursts. And it's interesting to see how the rankings change for each category. Every test was performed from the exact same location, crouch stance, full arm stamina, and holding my breath. No manual recoil control whatsoever. This is pure natural gun behavior, which is tied to the lower receiver. All the attachments simply reduce the amount of recoil, but the pattern is always the same for each lower receiver, as you can see in this example. On the left, there are no positive recoil attachments, and on the right, it has all the highest recoil reduction attachments. Same pattern, just one is exaggerated more than the other. So the pattern is tied to the lower receiver. Once we have all the patterns, I scale a numbered grid to the wall and then overlay it onto each pattern. I draw a baseline connecting the first and last shot to see how well the pattern holds to that baseline. This gives us real, measurable data. The guns were all built identically, with the lower receiver being the only variable, except for the L403A1, which requires its own unique upper receiver and barrel. So here are all the lower receivers I tested: the M4A1, the M4A1 FDE, the DDM4 Brown, the DDM4 Black, the M16A1, and the L403A1. One quick note that's actually pretty silly: the exact same lower receiver but in a different color, like the black vs brown DDM4 or the regular vs FDE M4A1, actually produce noticeably different recoil patterns. You heard that right, the game treats colored versions as mechanically different. Kind of odd, but it is what it is, so I tested them all separately. First up are the mag dumpers. This is for players who hold that trigger. All of these patterns are a 30-round spray. This is how I judged the patterns. The easiest to control is the most consistent. When you're spraying at a moving target, you don't want to fight big sudden direction changes. So the best recoil pattern isn't necessarily the most vertical one, it's the one that stays closest to the baseline the entire time with minimal deviation. For example, the L403A1 isn't the most vertical, but it hugs the baseline nicely the whole way through with no major direction shifts. That makes it much easier to control while tracking targets. So let's quickly look at all the patterns. They're ordered as best to worst from left to right. The L403A1 got first place for the reasons I just mentioned, and I gave second place to the DDM4 Black. And it becomes easier to see why when I overlay these red lines onto the patterns which depict a direction change. So for the DDM4 Black, for example, you will pull down and to the right with your mouse at first to counter the rising to the left, and then you need to change to pulling basically straight down for the second half of the pattern. I received a lot of requests to cover the M16A1, which I gave third place in the mag dump category. Because as you can see, even with accounting for a direction change, the pattern doesn't hug the yellow baseline or the red lines very well in the second half of the spray. So for a full 30-round spray with the M16A1, you really need to account for 2 direction changes as depicted here to match the accuracy achieved with only 1 direction change with the DDM4 Black and the L403A1. Fourth place is kind of a tie between the M4A1 FDE and the regular M4A1. They both are a little bouncy back and forth with the horizontal recoil, but I've seen worse. In the clear last place is the DDM4 Brown. The first 75% of the spray is nice and consistent, but that last 25% gets a little crazy. I would look at this as having 2 direction changes if I were controlling this recoil as depicted by these blue lines. So that was the mag dumper category, and here are the rankings for the half mag dumping category. I don't really mag dump, I'm more of a single fire or burst player, but I do occasionally find myself panicked and spraying in rare situations, but it's usually just maybe half a mag. So I was curious which receiver was best in this category. So first place now changes to the M16A1 as it holds to the yellow baseline nearly perfectly. In second place, we have the L403A1 as it holds to its baseline very well, only deviating a tiny bit more than the M16A1. Third is kind of a tie between the DDM4 Black and the DDM4 Brown. Both are perfectly acceptable, but have slightly more deviation off the baseline than the previous 2. Last place is also kind of a tie between the M4A1 FDE and regular M4A1. Both kind of need looked at as having a direction change, whereas the other 4 can be controlled with one consistent pull on the mouse. I would use any of the other 4 over these 2. Now, getting into the burst fire category. This is the category more for my playstyle. For this category, I'm just evaluating what's happening in the first 15 to 20% of the spray, or 1 unit of measurement per the scale. First place, again, goes to the M16A1. This is basically a straight line and almost vertical. Second goes to the M4A1 FDE, which is quite a jump up from being tied for last place in the previous category, but there's no denying the fairly straight line recoil within this first unit of measurement, and it's almost vertical. Third is the L403A1 with a nice controllable pattern there, and we have 3 tied for last, which are both DDM4s and the regular M4A1. So for my playstyle, which is mostly single fire or burst fire with the occasional half mag dump, the M16A1 is clearly the right choice for me. Hopefully this information helps you decide which low receiver is the right choice for you. Once again, I did all the testing so you don't have to, and I'm doing all the AK style rifles next. As always, like and subscribe or I'll...
Your mother!